Welcome to Perfectville, your first place podcast for your Miami Dolphins, part of the BLEAV network, presented by Fanduel. I am Sam Marcoux, and ladies and gentlemen, citizens of Perfectville, we are just hours away. That's right, hours, not months, not weeks, not even days. Simply put, hours away from the kickoff of week one for your Miami Dolphins against those Indianapolis Colts in Indianapolis, 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific time. And we have done just about all we can do to get you kickoff ready here in the town of Perfectville. We talked to Travis Wingfield, the beat writer, the podcaster for your Miami Dolphins. We talked to former players like O.J. McDuffie, Richmond Webb. We talked to Seth Levitt, who runs the JT Foundation, deeply embedded with the Miami Dolphins. We even talked to the other side. We went and talked to the guys from the Bring the Juice podcast for the Indianapolis Colts. So we have covered this game every which way but loose. Really, the only thing left to do is to give you my prediction, to break down this game from my perspective, based on all the input that I'm getting, everything I'm seeing online, everything that I have heard on this podcast, everything that we've been talking about. It all comes to a head in just a few hours. So what we're going to do on this podcast, the last one, before you are absolutely 100% kickoff ready for your Miami Dolphins against the Indianapolis Colts week one, is to break down just how this game is going to go. And that is the big splash. That is the top story. The Miami Dolphins are playing with live rounds. By the time you listen to this, you're going to turn around and turn on that TV or walk into that sports bar or turn on the radio or be at the game. I'm not sure. And you're going to be watching the early version of the 2025 Miami Dolphins taking on those Indianapolis Colts. Now, a couple things that we want to break down here. Number one, the Miami Dolphins, if you look on Fanduel, like I've been talking about, screaming about for the last couple of weeks, Fanduel has the Miami Dolphins plus 1.5. What does that mean? That means they are underdogs, road dogs, going into Indianapolis week one. It's pretty close. It's pretty tight. Most of the smart money is actually going to the Miami Dolphins, and I get it. I understand it. I've been telling you, I think this is the line that should be flipped. I think the Miami Dolphins should be favored in this game. I think they're going to win. Spoiler alert for the rest of the show. But go to FanDuel today, and not only can you bet on this line and get that juicy plus 1.5 for the Miami Dolphins, you could take the over-under, which is at 46.5. You could take the money line. You could do individual props on who's going to score the first touchdown for the Miami Dolphins, who's going to score the last touchdown of the game for the Miami Dolphins. Maybe Tua Tagovailoa goes over a certain yardage that we'll talk about in just a bit. Perhaps Tyreek Hill goes under a certain amount of yardage receiving. You can bet this game every which way but loose. You can create your own parlays. You can do it all over at FanDuel. So go there right after this podcast is done and before the game starts, get your bets in and then kick back and enjoy this game, because that's what I'm planning on doing. I'm going to be watching this game from La Cabana. It's a sports bar and restaurant. It's a Miami Dolphins fan takeover. The NorCal Fins take over this bar every week one. It's been a tradition of mine for many, many years to go. This year, we got the SoCal team coming up as well. So we're going to set a personal record on the West Coast of how many Miami Dolphins fans we can squeeze into one area. We've got 2 official fan groups going there. We got a whole bunch of people that are going to crawl in. I'm thinking we might hit 100. That would be awesome. Just sitting there watching the Miami Dolphins pound Daniel Jones into oblivion with 99 other people, close friends, for 3 hours. That's what I'm looking forward to. But we're going to get there. Like I said, we're just hours away. This is your preview show, the perfect preview show of week one, getting you officially and completely kick-off ready for those Miami Dolphins and Indianapolis Colts. And let's just get into it. Let's just break it down. Let's just see the game how I see it. And let's start with looking at the rosters. First and foremost, let's take a look at the quarterbacks. The Miami Dolphins invested in Tua Tagovailoa. He is QB1, not just the number on his jersey, but in our hearts as well. This entire offense, this entire team is predicated on Tua Tagovailoa being healthy and being able to get the ball to his receivers and running backs out of the backfield. He's healthy right now. Going into this season, he looks pretty good. He's become that vocal and physical leader for the Miami Dolphins as well. He's taking charge with the media. He's taking charge in the locker room. He's taking charge in that huddle. And anyone who's been around him has been saying the same thing. So it's not just me saying it. Coaches are saying it. Players are saying it. Former players are saying it. People are sleeping on Tua Tagovailoa. People forget how good he actually is. Almost to the point where it's embarrassing and I'm angry about it. But Tua Tagovailoa, when he is healthy, has a QB rating that's higher than just about anyone else that's ever played the game. Tua Tagovailoa, when he is healthy, has the accuracy that outshines and outclasses any current day quarterback playing today. Fight me on that. I will fight you to the death on that point right there. He's smart. He understands where he's supposed to go with the ball. He gets the ball where it's supposed to be, when it's supposed to be there. Does he have the strongest arm? No. Is he Justin Herbert with a rocket attached to his shoulder? Absolutely not. But that's not what he's supposed to do, and that's not what we need in order to be successful. And Tua comes into this game with a little bit of a chip on his shoulder. Tua comes into this game looking to prove the haters and the doubters wrong. People are sleeping on Tua Tagovailoa. They got him ranked as like the 25th best quarterback in the league. When you look at it from a fantasy perspective, he's only rostered on like half of the leagues on ESPN. That's atrocious. That's outrageous. That's going to be fixed, I think, after week 1 and week 2, because I think he's going to show up, he's going to show out, and he's going to put some numbers up on the board to make people look silly who didn't have him at least on the roster, if not starting. But fantasy football aside, real football, you have Tua Tagovailoa healthy, ready to go. You got Tyreek Hill off the injured report, healthy, ready to go. Jalen Waddle, who I think people forgot is on this team, who I think is ready to step up and be the true number 1 receiver for the Miami Dolphins and break out and be a national star. He's healthy and ready to go. Devon Achane, absolutely ready to go. We're just a few hours away from seeing the greatest show on surf back out there on the field, ready to prove everybody wrong. Now, is Darren Waller going to play? No, he's already been ruled out. There's a little bit of shenanigans going on with the Miami Dolphins when it comes to Darren Waller. You cannot convince me that this guy did not have a pre-existing hip injury prior to being traded, quote unquote, traded and coming out of retirement to the Miami Dolphins. The Dolphins had no reason to tell everybody that. They had no reason to let anyone know that Darren Waller was hurt because they didn't have to. But now that they have to, there you go. Voila. Wouldn't you know it? Quote unquote, freak accident on Thursday before practice, which gave him a setback. I hope it's just a bunch of coincidences. I really do. Because right now, my Scooby senses are starting to tingle. I'm ready to go get Scooby and Shaggy and the rest of the gang and pull off the Darren Waller mask and reveal Will Fuller and OBJ and all the other guys that we thought were going to be the answer to just put this offense completely over the top into the next stratosphere. Turns out to be nothing. So Darren Waller's not going to play in this game. Does that move the needle for me? Does that change my opinion as to what the Miami Dolphins are going to do against the Indianapolis Colts? No. Quite frankly, it doesn't. I actually had more of an opinion change when Jason Sanders went out, the kicker, than I do with Darren Waller. I'm not relying on Darren Waller at all until he can prove that he can actually practice, play in a game, and then contribute. And right now, that trifecta isn't something that I would look to put money on if it were on Fanduel. So I'm not worried about Darren Waller. He's not part of the game plan as far as I'm concerned. What I am concerned about is the other injury that popped up late in the week, that, of course, being our right guard, James Daniels. This was our prize free agent pick. He's coming off an Achilles tear. Doesn't seem to be the same foot. I think it's the other leg that's injured, but you cannot have injuries to this offensive line. Because think about that. You've got him, the right guard, who's looked very, very good during training camp, very good in preseason. He's now dinged up. Is he going to play? Probably, but it's not a guarantee. And then right next to him is Austin Jackson, just making his way back. Austin Jackson, very talented. When he's healthy, he's a road grader. He protects Tua's blind side. People forget the right side of the line is Tua's blind side. And you got 2 question marks when it comes to injuries. Austin Jackson, healthy as an ox, says he's never felt better. That makes me feel good. Does he have the reps? Does he have the timing? Does he have the communication with those other pieces on the line? And, oh, by the way, if he doesn't, it was kind of nice to have a veteran guard right next to him who can step in and help, right? Maybe help call plays, maybe make sure that we're sliding protection if we needed to. That's now in jeopardy. So I don't like that, because if that offensive line is dinged up, if we don't have that starting 5, that changes a lot of things. That's where I would start to worry. That's where I think, now the Miami Dolphins have to adjust, because this defense for the Indianapolis Colts, they have a new defensive coordinator, Lou Anarumo. This is a guy who likes to blitz. He's going to be way more aggressive than what we've seen from the Indianapolis Colts over the last couple of years. They have aggressive pass rushers on that line and in the linebacking field that can get after the quarterback. And if you don't have an offensive line that's ready to go and pick it all up, look out. because Tua Tagovailoa is not Patrick Mahomes. Tua Tagovailoa is not Jalen Hurts. Tua Tagovailoa is not a guy who's going to avoid pressure and create out in space. That's not his game. So what do the Miami Dolphins do if this offensive line is dinged up? If this offensive line is missing a piece or two, I think you're going to see the Miami Dolphins go to a lot of quick snaps, a lot of quick throws, lots of slants, sluggos, things where we can get the ball out of Tua's hand quickly and to spots. That usually works in our favor, but not always. So that's where I'd be worried. If the Miami Dolphins have their right guard missing, that's when you might start to see the game plan change a little bit for the Miami Dolphins. But that aside, let's assume health across the line because we don't know until we know here in just a few short hours. Then I think the Miami Dolphins are going to be cooking because I like what I see out of Devon Achane when he was practicing. We absolutely love what we're seeing out of Ollie Gordon II. We now have Jeff Wilson Jr. activated from the practice squad. No surprise there. He will be the third running back in the room. You got a veteran who runs hard, you got a rookie who runs hard, and you got a third-year player in Devon Achane who can do just about everything. I think they're going to slide a little bit of that protection for Tua as well as run the ball to the left-hand side of that line behind Patrick Paul, Aaron Brewer, and Jonas Savaiana. If I were the Miami Dolphins, that's what I would do. I'd try to see if I can find holes there, push down, and get some yardage on the left-hand side of the offensive line. If you can do that, if you can establish a run game, if you can keep them on their heels, them being the Indianapolis Colts, well, shit, then everything opens up. Everything becomes an opportunity for Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill. I'm not expecting much out of the tight ends. Julian Hill's not a pass-catching tight end. He's not going to be the guy. But if he's on the field, he's going to block, he's going to hit somebody, and hopefully he does it after the ball is snapped so we don't have any pre-snap penalties or holding penalties when it comes to Julian Hill. Always a concern. That's a concern for the entire team, right? Pre-snap, motion penalties, things of that nature. But if the Miami Dolphins can be healthy, and we'll know in just a few hours if they are healthy, then I think this offense opens up. Nothing is off the table. That is that big of a game plan for the Miami Dolphins. Big chess piece is that right guard is healthy or not. And if he is, then I think the Miami Dolphins have a chance to score points. I also think with Riley Patterson being the backup kicker, also called up from the practice squad, replacing Jason Sanders, doesn't have the leg of Jason Sanders, doesn't have the accuracy of Jason Sanders. Two key elements. Can he kick a 40-yard field goal? Yeah. Can he kick an extra point? He should be able to, sure. But is he going to kick a 58-yarder right before the half? Is he going to be able to kick a 65-yarder to end the game? I don't know about that. I feel much more confident in Jason Sanders than I do Riley freaking Patterson. But Riley Patterson can kick off. Riley Patterson can get you, quote-unquote, easy field goals. And I think that's how they're going to use him. So what does that mean? I'd say look for the Miami Dolphins to be aggressive on fourth down if they're in plus territory. 4th and 5 on the 40-yard line of the Colts, I think they go for it. 4th and 3 from the 35 on the Colts, questionable. But at that point, you're talking about a 52-yard field goal. Are they going to line up and let Riley Patterson try it? If the game isn't close, sure. But if it's close, well, then we have a decision to make. See, these are the things. This is the game within the game that Mike McDaniel's going to have to manage. This is where he has to earn his paycheck and earn his money and make the right calls, and then the players have to go out and execute. So I look for the Miami Dolphins to be more aggressive on fourth down in plus territory in this game, simply because Riley Patterson hasn't proven to anybody, including himself, that he can be trusted with a 50-plus yard field goal in the clutch. So it's 4 down territory for the Miami Dolphins offense when they're in the Colts area of the field. Now, flipping this over on the defensive side of the ball, the Miami Dolphins have a huge front seven. We all have heard about it. Kenneth Grant, the rookie, is going to be making his debut. Zeke Biggers will be making his debut. Of course, Travis Wingfield's man crush, Jordan Phillips the second, is going to be making his debut. We're going to pair him with Zach Sealer. And oh, by the way, there's a few injured linebackers, defensive ends, and edges that are coming back. One of them happens to be a team captain in Bradley Chubb, Jalen Phillips, and the 2-year sophomore wonder, Chop Robinson. He's going to be on the field as well. How are they going to deploy this front seven? How are they going to deploy all of these sports cars on the line? How are they going to get after Daniel Jones? I think they're going to. I really do. I think the Miami Dolphins can get home with minimal pressure or with disguised blitzes and coverages up front, and they're going to need to do that because this secondary, questionable at best. I mean, that is the Achilles heel. That is the weakness for the Miami Dolphins here in 2025 until proven otherwise. If they can't get to the quarterback, then the quarterback's going to get the ball to the wide receivers. It's as simple as that. So if the Miami Dolphins can get pressure on Daniel Jones with ideally four people up front, that's going to relieve a lot of problems or potential problems on throwing downs. Now, Daniel Jones can run. Yes, he can. The guy's got wheels. We've seen that for years when he was with the New York Giants. So maybe they get there and he squeaks out and he runs. I'll take that. I'll take Daniel Jones running for 1,000, Alex, because I think that if he's running, scrambling for his life, shows me that we're getting to him with that front seven. And I'll take that. I'll roll the dice with Daniel Jones without a spy. But if Jonathan Thomas is able to get off, if the front seven is an illusion from what we've seen at training camp and preseason, all they can really do is get to the quarterback with pressure in terms of sacks, with blitzes and things of that nature, well, then we're going to have a challenge on our hand, ladies and gentlemen, citizens of Perfectville. Because this defense, in order for it to succeed, needs to get to that quarterback, needs to stop the run. It's no secret. But Jonathan Taylor, I should say, Jonathan Taylor Thomas. It'd be easier if Jonathan Taylor Thomas was the running back, the kid from Home Improvement, and we just hit the shit out of him, and he'd shit his pants and his flannel shirt. That would be an easier fight for the Miami Dolphins defense if it was Jonathan Taylor Thomas lining up as the running back for the Colts. But it's not. It's Jonathan Taylor out of Wisconsin. It's a big boy. That's a guy who could hurt you when you're trying to tackle him. So the Miami Dolphins are going to have to figure out a way to get that man on the ground quickly and mitigate the damage that Jonathan Taylor can do to a team when he has the ball in his hand. If you do that, make him one-dimensional. Look, the Colts have offensive firepower. I think people are sleeping on the fact that they have really, really good wide receivers. We talked about it when we had the views from the other side on the Bring the Juice podcast when they were on here earlier this week. They have really good wide receivers, 1 through 4. They've got a talented, young rookie, Tyler Warren, at tight end. You think he's going to be anxious to catch his first pass? You think they're not going to want to highlight him if they get down in a goal-to-go situation and get the big rookie, their first-round draft pick, his first touchdown against the Miami Dolphins? I would be. I would absolutely want to do that if I were the Indianapolis Colts. So it's up to the Miami Dolphins to stop that. And how are they going to stop that? It's all going to be on the front seven. I think you got to get after Daniel Jones. I don't think he's equipped to handle a pass rush. He's never shown that he's that good unless he can scramble. So if they can close off those scramble lanes and they can actually get him on the ground, hit him, knock him down, then I think the secondary can do what they are paid to do, which is to go gobble up the ball, knock it out of the hands. Things are going to float. Things are going to be inaccurate. Then you can go pick off the ball. Then you can knock it down. Then you can get off the field on third down. That's the thing. That's the key for this defense. If you get the Colts on 3rd and long, and by long, I mean 3rd and 7 or more, that's got to be the end of it. The next play has to be the end of that drive. You simply cannot afford to have those back-breaking conversions of 3rd and 7 or longer with Daniel freaking Jones as the quarterback for the Indianapolis Colts. If they're converting 3rd and 12, if they're getting first downs on 3rd and 9, that's a deal breaker for the Miami Dolphins defense. It can't happen. It cannot happen if you're going to be successful in this game. And I define success as not only winning, but winning by more than a kick. This game should not come down to a kick if you're the Miami Dolphins. You don't want Riley Patterson having to kick a game-winning field goal in order for you to win this game. So you're going to have to get out, get after it early, get points on the board in the first quarter, not the second. We can't ease into this, make halftime adjustments, and come out in the third quarter. I think we got to get on them quick. First quarter, I'd like to see at least 7 points in the first quarter, ideally 10. We get 2 possessions. I want 2 scores. But if the Miami Dolphins can get out to an early lead, then this defense can feast. Then they actually automatically turn this team into somewhat of a one-dimensional team. If you go up by 2 scores against the Colts, they're going to have to start chasing. And they will chase. Because you think about what the Colts are up against. They have not won week 1 since 2013. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. That means there are middle school kids running around Indianapolis who have never seen their favorite team with a winning record after week 1. That's bananas. I mean, talk about losers. My goodness. Look, sorry to take pot shots at you, Colts, but you kind of earned it, right? I mean, if you're 0 for the last decade and a half, you're going to take a little bit of shit, especially from me, Sam Marcoux, here in the town of Perfectville. So if you go down early, if you're the Colts, what are you going to try to do? You're going to try to end this streak. You're going to try to push the field. You're going to try to get that ball to Michael Pittman Jr. You're going to try to get that ball to Josh Downs. You're going to try to force the ball to Tyler Warren and try to score as many points quickly back as you can. And that's when mistakes happen. That's what the Miami Dolphins want. So if we start with the ball, we damn well better get down there and get at least 3 points on that first possession. If we start on defense, we got to get off the field as quickly as humanly possible, start to deflate that crowd. Remember, like Richmond Wim said, it's in a dome. It's the first game of the season. It's going to be loud. The fans are thirsty. They're itching. They want to see all these weapons. They want to see this new and improved defense. They want to see Xavier Howard get revenge against his old team. So it's up to us, the Miami Dolphins offense, to bring them down, bring them little horsies down into the stable, sit down on the ground or in the chairs and be quiet. Shh. We got to make them shh. So that's what we need. It cannot come down to special teams. Unless it's a kickoff or punt return for the Miami Dolphins, the special teams should not be the deciding factor in this game. It cannot come down to a kick. The Miami Dolphins are going to have to score points. They're going to have to score early. I think they're going to have to score often. And once they do that, then the defense can pin back their ears and get after Daniel Jones, knock down Jonathan Taylor, and mitigate any damage from a pretty talented receiving core. So it should be pretty interesting to see here. I think the Miami Dolphins have the advantage across the line. I do think their quarterback is better than their quarterback. I think it's a push when it comes to the running back room. Give the slight edge to the Indianapolis Colts. I'm fine with that. Miami Dolphins have better wide receivers. The Colts, even without playing a game, have better tight ends. Offensive line, we'll see. Call it a push. They very much mirror each other, which is interesting. I think the defensive line and linebackers for the Colts are where their money's going to be made on the defensive side of the ball. Same with the Miami Dolphins. And I think there's a lot of questions, a lot of question marks when it comes to both secondaries, but for very different reasons. The Colts invested in veterans. The Miami Dolphins are looking at rookies. So they're taking wildly different approaches to how they're building this secondary. We'll see which one's going to pay off week one. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to go pay off some bills. You're going to listen to some ads. We're going to come back. I'm going to give you my actual prediction for this game. We're going to run through all the different ways you can actually make this game even more fun on Fanduel. And maybe we'll bring back, I don't know. Let's see. I mentioned ridiculous predictions earlier in the week, but I'm thinking maybe Drunken Bingo, the Drunken Bingo game. That might be a good one. I'll figure it out. I'm going to go pay some bills. You're going to listen to those bills being paid, and we'll come back and we'll figure it out right after these words. And welcome back to the town of Perfectville. Sam Marcoux flying solo, previewing the Colts Miami Dolphins Week 1 matchup in Indianapolis, Indiana, 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. That's when I will be watching the game at La Cabana in Sassoon City with about 100 other Doll fans. Can't wait. Looking forward to it in just a few hours. Ladies and gentlemen, citizens of Perfectville, it is time. And we are getting you kickoff ready here in the town of Perfectville on the BLEAV Network, powered by Fanduel. And speaking of Fanduel, it's probably time to break down everything that you're seeing on Fanduel. If you will go to the sportsbook at fanduel.com, you'll find all kinds of ways to take a look at this game and enjoy it in just a different way than you're typically enjoying it. So first and foremost, I've talked about it multiple times, but the Miami Dolphins walk into Indianapolis underdogs. They're 1.5 point underdogs against the Indianapolis Colts. This spread has not changed for the last couple of weeks. I thought it might as we got closer to the kickoff, but it hasn't. David Behrman was correct. It's not going to move, barring some sort of crazy injury or incident before the ball actually gets hiked and we start playing the game for real. So the Miami Dolphins right now, if you go on to fanduel.com, you can lock it in plus 1.5. I say you take the Miami Dolphins, you take the 1.5, and you thank me later when you're rolling in dough. Because the Miami Dolphins are not losing this game. And they're certainly going to cover that 1.5 advantage they're getting from FanDuel. Now, the over-under, 46.5. Prior to some of the injuries that showed up late for the Miami Dolphins in this week, I would have said take the over. But if the Miami Dolphins are dinged up on the offensive line, I think that game plan is going to change a little bit. I think they're going to rely a little heavier on the run game. I think they're going to have to get the ball out of Tua's hands a little bit faster than they'd like. I think taking the top off the defense for the Indianapolis Colts becomes something of less of a necessity and more of a luxury if they're able to make magic happen with backup players on the offensive line, which I'm not confident about. So 46.5, I think that means I usually would take the over. I usually bet the over because I think that if you bet for the under, you're betting for a boring game. And I don't want a boring game, especially week one. You want high-flying theatrics. You want that Patriots-Dolphins 94 matchup, the return of Marino. That's what I want with every week one matchup. But history has shown us that's not the case. Mike McDaniel's 3-0 on week one, but he's only scored 30 or more one time. And that was 2 years ago against the Chargers when that offense was flowing for the first half of the season. Last year, I think they scored 20. 23, something like that. The first year under Mike McDaniel against the Patriots, somewhere in the 20s. So I don't see this Miami Dolphins offense clicking completely here in week one. I don't trust Daniel Jones or any quarterback on the Indianapolis Colts for that matter to really house the Miami Dolphins defense. So I think the smart money is taking the under 46.5. That's what I would do. Now, if you want to look at some other things beyond just the scores and the points, there's all kinds of ways on FanDuel to bet this game and watch it and enjoy, especially if you get it right. So let's take a look at some props when it comes to the touchdowns. So Jonathan Taylor, if you're watching this and you're looking at Jonathan Taylor saying he's going to be a problem for this Miami Dolphins defense, he is minus 180 for an anytime touchdown. He's plus 360 for the first touchdown, which I think is good money. I think that might be a smart play. If you're the Colts, your best player is Jonathan Taylor. You get down into goal-to-go situation, you're probably going to give the ball to Jonathan Taylor. So if you're looking at this from the Colts standpoint, I think first touchdown, Jonathan Taylor plus 360, that might be good money to go. Now, on the Miami Dolphins side of the ball, Devon Achane, anytime touchdown, minus 135. First touchdown, plus 500. That is spicy. That is spicy. Less maybe consistent than Jonathan Taylor, because once you get into that goal-to-go situation, it's probably not going to Achane if we know anything right now. So it's probably going to be something that's a little bit longer, like a little bit of a wiggle move, and he's gone for 40 yards on a rush or some sort of screenplay that he breaks to get it there. But Tyreek Hill, plus 135 for an anytime touchdown. That seems like a smart play. Plus 850. 850 for the first touchdown. That one right there is pretty interesting. The only thing that's more interesting than that to me is Jalen Waddle plus 180 anytime touchdown. I take that all day, every day. I think Jalen Waddle comes out of this game with a touchdown, at least one. I think Jalen Waddle is going to have the year. He's going to be that guy. So if you're on FanDuel right now, you're on the sportsbook, look at Jalen Waddle anytime touchdown plus 180. Again, thank me later. What's really spicy, though, Jalen Waddle, first touchdown for the Miami Dolphins, plus 1,000. I mean, that could happen first play into the game, ladies and gentlemen. You could just be up big right away. It's not unheard of. It's not that far from reality of what could happen here. So if you want a risky play, something that could be a lot of fun, Jalen Waddle plus 1,000 for first touchdown. I like it. I like it. Let's take a look at the passing props. Again, on the sportsbook here for FanDuel. The over-under for Tua Tagovailoa in this game, 246.5 yards. That's a tough one. This is a good line from FanDuel right here because I am not sure where to go with this. I think, again, if the line is healthy, I'm taking the over on this. I think Tua wants to come out and put his stamp on this season right away, and one way to do that is to go out there and try to throw 300 yards. But if the offensive line, as we go into this game, is dinged up, if we have somebody who's not going to play that we thought was going to play, then you take the under. Then you're going to see a more conservative Miami Dolphins approach. Then you're going to see quick hitters, move the chains, get into a scoring position, hand it off to Ollie Gordon, hand it off to Jeff Wilson, do a little dink and dunk to whoever can get closer to that goal line and kick a field goal or get it into the end zone that way. And then you're probably looking at the under 246.5 for Tua Tagovailoa. Let's take a look at the rushing. This one's interesting to me. I was looking at this the other day, and I was like, this could be where the action is. So over under 80.5 yards for Jonathan Taylor. I'm going to take the under. I can't believe I'm saying that. I'm going to take the under. Ladies and gentlemen, I had that much faith in the Miami Dolphins front seven. That defensive line is so stout and so good. I don't know that Jonathan Taylor is going to get a lot of yardage on the ground. And if the Miami Dolphins handle business on offense, Jonathan Taylor is going to be mitigated in this game. So if you took the over, wouldn't be mad at you. I totally understand. But the under, 80.5, looking spicy. Now, Devon Achane, over under 57.5 yards. I don't know. But I do think this is going to be a game where you're going to see a focused effort to run the ball. I just don't know if it's going to be Devon Achane or Ollie Gordon in those situations. So 57.5, you feel what you want to do. I'm going to take the over because I'm a homer, and that's what I want to happen. So take the under on Jonathan Taylor at 80.5. Take the over on Devon Achane, 57.5. We'll see what happens. We will see what happens. Now let's take a look at the receiving yards, because this one is interesting to me. Because I know I just told you, depending on how this shakes out with the offensive line for the Miami Dolphins, you're probably going to want to take the under when it comes to Tua Tagovailoa and 246.5 yards. But when I look at the line for the wide receivers for the Miami Dolphins, I have a hard time telling you to take the under when it's Tyreek Hill, 68.5 yards. Tyreek Hill gets more than 60 yards multiple times a season, sometimes multiple times a game since he's come to the Miami Dolphins. I think he slammed the over on Tyreek Hill getting 68.5 yards. Jalen Waddle, 57.5 yards receiving. Same as Devon Achane running the ball. I'm taking the over there too. I think this is a coming out party for Jalen Waddle, like I've been talking about for months and months and months on this show. I think he's going to prove it week one. Jalen Waddle over 57.5. Tyreek Hill over 68.5. Thank me later. On the other side of the ball, Michael Pittman Jr., 46.5 yards over under. I'm taking the over. I'm big on Michael Pittman. I think this is going to be a bounce back year for him. I know he doesn't have the quarterbacks to get him the ball, but he's a talented dude. And against this secondary, especially if they have to throw the ball, it's going to be hard to figure out who to cover, because we got about one cornerback and they got about three receivers that we're really going to have to keep an eye on. So I think Michael Pittman goes over on 46.5. I think Josh Downs, 45.5. Take the over there. I think they're going to be throwing the ball a lot. The interesting one's going to be Tyler Warren, 35.5 yards. He's a rookie tight end. Traditionally speaking, rookie tight ends don't do a lot, especially in their first game. But traditions are meant to be broken. And if you look at the league the last couple of years, you've got Sam Laporta, you got Brock Bowers. Tyler Warren's trying to be in that conversation with those two young bucks. Take the over. Just take the over. Like I said, I have a hard time betting the under. Just take the over on all these guys. I think it's going to be a fun game. I think you're going to see the Colts try to air it out. I think you're going to see the Miami Dolphins try to ground and pound these guys into oblivion and then try to take the top off the defense, especially if that offensive line is intact. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Citizens of Perfectville, children of all ages, we have gone through on Fanduel and told you what they think the line should be, not only for the scores, not only for the total points, but the individual prop bets for your Tua Tagovailoas, for your Devon Achanes, for your Tyreek Hills, for your Jalen Waddles. I even threw in a little bonus content from Michael Pittman Jr., Josh Downs, and Jonathan Taylor. We're getting you kickoff ready, ladies and gentlemen. It's almost time. It is almost time. I think really the only thing left to do from me, Sam Marcoux, to you, the citizens of Perfectville and the entire BLEAV Nation, is to give you my official prediction. But before I do that, let's see if we can't fill up the bingo card, because as you know, if you were watching the NFL, there are certain tropes, there are certain things that always seem to happen during the broadcast of a Miami Dolphins game or any football game, but in particular, the Miami Dolphins game. So we've got the Colts, we've got the Dolphins, and every single time one of these things happens, you are going to take a shot. All right. So as an example, if they show Don Shula as the Baltimore Colts and Miami Dolphins head coach, at any point, you take a shot. If they show Bob Greasy, Dan Marino, Johnny Unitas, and Peyton Manning in any order at any time, you take a shot. If they talk about and remind you that this used to be an AFC East rivalry when the Colts were back in the AFC East before the realignment, take a shot. If they tell you the stat that I've been telling you, that the Indianapolis Colts have not won week one since 2013, take a shot. If they show Mike McDaniel on the sidelines pacing back and forth with his sweats that he pulls up to act like shorts, and they say, you know, he's actually on the hot seat this season, take a shot. If they talk about Tua Tagovailoa's concussion history, take a shot. If they talk about Tua Tagovailoa's comments about Tyreek Hill, take a shot. If they do some sort of weird home improvement tool time comparison from Jonathan Taylor to Jonathan Taylor Thomas, take a shot. If they show an Indiana Pacer somewhere on the sidelines or hyping up the crowd, take a shot. If they show the Dome versus what it would be in Miami right now if the game were at home instead of away for the Dolphins in terms of weather conditions, take a shot. Take a shot. Because these are things that happen. If they show Mike McDaniel and the Miami Dolphins record against winning teams versus losing teams, take a shot. Take 2 shots. That's going to happen. That one's going to hit. That's almost a free space on the bingo card right there. What else? What else could we throw on that bingo card? I feel like I'm missing something tangible. I'm missing something that I shouldn't be missing. Here's one. If they show Xavier Howard and say, he was an all-pro, he was a former Miami Dolphin, he's probably got some secrets about that team. Take a shot. And there's your bingo card. The Drinko card for the Miami Dolphins against the Indianapolis Colts. We've covered a lot of ground here, ladies and gentlemen. We went through both sides of the football for the Miami Dolphins and what they have to do to be successful on either side of the ball. We went through the lines on FanDuel. Check it out if you haven't already. We went through the drinking game, the bingo drinking game. And I think the only thing left before it actually gets in the air and we watch live round football for your Miami Dolphins against the Indianapolis Colts is to give you my actual prediction. So I've told you already that I think the Miami Dolphins are going to win this game. I've told you I don't think it needs to come down to a kick. If it comes down to a kick, we're in trouble because Riley Patterson is not him. So the only way for the Miami Dolphins to make my prediction come true is to win by more than a kick. And I think that's exactly what they're going to do. I think they're going to walk in to the RCA Dome or whatever they're calling it these days, and they're going to walk out 1-0. They're going to be tied for first place after they beat their old AFC East rival shot. And I think the final score is going to be 24-17. The Miami Dolphins come out on top, winning by more than a kick, defeating the Indianapolis Colts, making those middle schoolers go into high school, never seeing their favorite team win home week 1. And that's the math. 24-17, Miami Dolphins over the Indianapolis Colts. Miami goes to 1-0. The Colts go to 0 for every week 1 for the last 13 years. And the Miami Dolphins and their fan base are celebrating a victory Monday as we get ready for week 2 against the dastardly New England Patriots. And there you have it. That's the prediction. That's the math. 24-17. Miami wins on the road. They cover that 1.5 underdog spread on FanDuel. Tua Tagovailoa shuts some people up, at least for a couple of days. Jalen Waddle has a coming out party, and Tyreek Hill does Tyreek Hill things. And speaking of doing things, I hope you've enjoyed the Kickoff Ready series here, getting you ready to go for your Miami Dolphins against those Indianapolis Colts right here in the town of Perfectville. We got a lot more coming up here for week 2. I'm going to have my reaction show after this game, win, lose, or otherwise. Hopefully not a tie. Dear God, don't let it be a tie. I think I'd rather lose than see a tie week 1. And I know that sounds weird, but that's the math. So just remember, we gave you the perfect preview show. And that's because nobody's perfect except us. And because of that, the only thing left to say on behalf of myself, Sam Marcoux, the entire BLEAV Network, presented by FanDuel, is goodbye from Perfectville. Later.